serve you all our days, ever rejoice to sing your praise. As we together your wisdom seek, charge us with truth whene'er we speak. Lord, may we ever know your will. Come to us when our hearts are still. As we your guidance with joy receive, may we as one your bliss achieve. As we your guidance with joy receive, may we as one your bliss achieve.
This reading is from Whispers from Eternity, a book of prayer poems by Paramhansa Yogananda. This is entitled, Perching in the Tree of Many Lives, I Sang Thy Songs. I, the nightingale of heaven, perched on the boughs of many lives, singing thy songs. My clear song reverberates over soul leaves that flutter with thy life. It thrills the night air in the private gardens of centuries, where many dream, many sleep, dreaming sweet fantasies, or again nightmares of delusion. It wakens some of them with soft touches of thy reverberating cosmic song. I fly everywhere and give concerts to express thy joy in bowers of receptive hearts. Oh, I will come again and again to lure all souls with my songs and to teach them thy songs, and invite them all to fly like me in thy skies of cosmic freedom. And this reading is from Rays of the One Light by Swami Kriyananda, which are parallel commentaries on the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita. And this week's reading is entitled, The Secret of Right Action. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it and your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramhansa Yogananda. One of the most famous stories in the Gospel, in the Bible, is that of Martha and Mary. Jesus, while visiting the home of Martha, was teaching while her sister Mary sat at his feet, absorbing his divine love and wisdom. Martha, meanwhile, busied herself with serving her guests and was upset with Mary for not helping her. "Lord," she cried, "doesn't it matter to you that my sister has left me to do all this serving alone? Please ask her to help me." "Martha, Martha," Jesus answered, "thou art careful and troubled about many things, but one thing is needful, and Mary hath chosen that good part which will not be taken away from her." This story is classic, for Martha's complaint is very understandable, and not, on the surface of it, spiritually wrong. Jesus may well have told Mary to get up and help her. We don't really know that he didn't, considerate as he was always of others' needs. But the teaching here doesn't concern the obvious dilemma of devotees, to work for God or to spend all one's time in prayer. It concerns rather the attitude of the mind. Jesus didn't tell Martha, "Martha, you are doing too much." He told her rather, "You are letting your work affect your inner peace." That was the contrast, not work versus contemplation, but restless preoccupation versus peaceful absorption under all circumstances. As it says in the Bhagavad Gita, actions performed under the influence of desire are greatly inferior to those which are guided by wisdom. Happiness eludes people when they act from self-interest. Seek shelter, therefore, in the equanimity of wisdom. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Om, Om, Om. This is one of those wonderful stories from the Bible that has such a clear teaching and such a deep teaching, and also includes the fact of Jesus very openly emphasizing the need for devotion, the need for connection with the Guru. Mary was, after all, one of these two sisters gazing at her Guru. And her other sister was saying, listen, there's work to be done. And so he was not only making a distinction between the two sisters, but really these two sisters that live within us. On the one hand, we have this sense of needing to serve, and on the other hand, and work. And I mean, it's not everything we do can be viewed as service if we view it that way. But it's not that we always view it that way. We're just working. And that need for devotion, that connection that we feel, is something to be held very sacred. Swamiji gave the example in his early life as a monk, living with Master, of how he was having more and more joy in meditation, and then at one point he would often meditate before lunch, and so he would receive his lunch sort of from the serving line in the monastery, and then put it aside, and then use that time to meditate, and then at the very end of the lunch break just come and quickly eat the lunch so he could have more time for meditation. And he said the lunch was cold, which I understand could be a great shock to have to imagine the food being cold, but still I laugh. I say that only because people often say eat before it gets cold, and so but he said at least he had more time for meditation. But he said in one meditation he felt so close to God. He said, now that I have it, I'll never lose it. It felt so natural. It felt like this is who I am. And so he said, I might as well go and have my lunch now. And he said then, and he then lost that sort of closeness, that connection for some time before it came back again. But it was an easy mistake to make, because sometimes it does feel that way. I have it so clear, it feels so much a part of me, I'll never lose it. And then things come back and suddenly we do. We have to understand, though, that this is part of the process. Our journey on the spiritual path is really one about direction and sort of course correcting the course to make sure we're headed in the right direction, as opposed to an absolute rigid path that one false step and it's over. I mean, if that were the case, it would be over for everyone in this room, myself first. So you see, it's just God isn't that way. Why? Maybe because he tried it and found, well, that didn't work. Let's try something gentler. If you've ever been on a boat, or if not, if you can imagine being on a boat. I remember I was once on a boat, and the captain of the boat, it was myself, and my mother. And he sort of felt that in addition to a boat, it was also a stage on which he could air all of his views on every subject, and that we would politely clap as the captive audience, literally captive. We were out on the boat in the ocean. What could we do except swim back? So it was... And after 1 hour of this, he said, do you want to sort of extend your booking of the... No, we have to be back for an appointment with ourselves. So anyway, he said, do you want to steer the boat? I said, please, just because anything I thought would maybe give me a little bit of insulation from sort of all this politics. And... But the way it is you have your target in sight and you're going for it, but it was a sailboat, so the wind blows a certain way and you have to correct a little bit because you're realizing you're starting to drift off course. And then something else happens. Maybe you start to fall asleep a little bit because, after all, this is the work for about an hour. So you realize, no, we're drifting back. Just have to aim, and you can't jerk it one way or the other because then you'll turn too fast. So it's just slight course corrections, slight adjustments. And this is the way you sail the boat, and this is the way we sail the boat of our lives. Meaning we have to give ourselves that latitude, that understanding that a slip is not a fall. If we drift too far in one direction, fine, then just move back. I mean, if you feel I haven't been doing as much as I would want to or whatever, be glad you noticed. Because, I mean, we've probably been doing it for some time. As Swamiji said, if you discover a flaw in yourself, don't say that, no, it's not there. Be glad that you've seen it. Now you can work on it. He said, it's been there all the time. And so it's much better. It's sort of like finding an illness. I mean, if you found out that you had some illness for quite a while, and no wonder you weren't feeling well and your energy was kind of low, would you say, well, I won't go to a doctor. I don't have the illness. No, I don't. You're so glad you found out what the problem is. Let's fix it. And so, and not be embarrassed, not be shy, not be defensive. This is the job. This is the work for everyone on this earth, whether they're doing it or not, whether they want to or not. Honestly, it's none of our business. We have only ourselves, our own life to work out. We can help others, give to others, but not audit others. Even if we are audited, not criticize others. This whole question of right action. Of course it wasn't the case, and this reading, this brings up such a debate. In fact, it's so funny because even next week, which I'm now giving away, in next week's reading, Swamiji continues that whole books have been written about how actually Martha has to be understood too, because see, she was serving people, she was making all the podi idli, and this one ran out of sambar, and so she was giving sambar, while the sister, engaged in divine contemplation, but still, somebody has to serve the idlis. And so Swamiji said, so do the unmeditative in religion justify themselves. You see, it's sort of like, someone, who's going to do the work if nobody else does? I'll do it so you all can be one with God. But there's a pride in that I'm practical and I'm getting it done and I'm filling the stomach. Why? Because they haven't perhaps tasted that inward connection that you get with meditation, that you can feel with devotion, that you can feel if you come to the center and you feel an upliftment. Meaning if you do, that somehow I got more than I expected. I got more than I brought to it. I got more than I feel just on my own at home. And so that support, that blessing, of course, then we carry with us. It's only we who are feeling it. I don't mean we have to go somewhere to feel it or do something to be filled up from somewhere else. It is already ours, but we need, you could say, a catalyst or a stimulant or a little bit of spice to wake us up, to get our attention, and then we can feel that. And so the fact remains, as Swamiji says, that Jesus corrected Martha. He wasn't saying don't serve, and as Swamiji said in this reading, he might have said, Mary, for your sister's sake, go help her with the sambar, and I'll be here too, and all that. We don't know, because he was always considerate of other people's needs, as Swamiji said. But the thing that comes to us is, again, it wasn't what Martha was doing, it was her attitude. She could have been serving and feeling that same connection that Mary was feeling. It's not that you have a choice of either serve or sit still. And if so, say, well, fine, I'll be one of the sit still people. No, I am in divine contemplation. You all please serve. Well, maybe not. Might be better to serve a little. Why? Because it gets us out of ourselves. And in giving energy, more energy comes to us. And so sometimes people will ask, why at the end of meditation do we do a healing prayer to send the energy out? I mean, can't we keep some of that energy for ourselves? I mean, can't I just kind of bless myself? But first of all, you can pray for your own needs. You certainly can ask God for a healing prayer and all that, certainly. So there's nothing wrong with that. The thing about sending the energy out is to remember Master's words. The channel is blessed by that which flows through it. Material possessions or objects are finite, and so if you give some away, it seems like you have less. I mean, in fact, you literally do have less, but anyone who's been successful, for example, in business, they'll say you got to spend money to earn money, but it's not just because of whatever superficial things, it's because it is actually a flow of energy, and in fact, material things also are a part of that flow of energy. Matter is energy after all. But again, as we see it, if I give you this, I'm happy for you, but then I'm wondering, you can have sort of half my dosa, but not more than half. And so when we are giving, energy in prayer, we get so much more energy. All you have to do is serve once, pray once, and to feel, or I should say rather, feel that once, and then you're totally convinced. I feel energized, not drained by the experience. One person was telling me that recently. She said, I was here from, the morning for the class all the way through until the evening, and you would think I would feel exhausted. She said, I feel so energized, and, a lot more than I would if I were just sitting at home, clicking on the next YouTube video. And so, not that there's anything wrong with that. I'm not trying to make a point. So anyway, the thing is that we are, when we act as channels, when we serve, as was the affirmation, and then also in the song that we all sang together, Lord, may we serve you. If we serve, if we give, we are naturally replenished. So again, nothing with serving, but if we serve with the attitude of, here's your coffee and these people, and I would like a coffee too, and why am I always the one? Does anyone else have 10 fingers? It looks like they all do, but somehow it's only, you will be drained after the third coffee, handing it out, you see? So even if it's all true, and even if everyone else is very peacefully sitting with feet up, even if it's all true, still, is that attitude helping you? You see, that is what makes something the right action and the right attitude, is what kind of consciousness does it produce in us. You can do the right action with the wrong attitude. Still, that's better. Because at least you're doing the right thing, even if it's just, all I can do is kind of... But listen, as long as the lips are closed, you're on a good track. So, we've got to begin where we can begin. But then we say, look, I am the one frustrated here. Everyone else is just drinking coffee. And it's their problem. Okay? And, you notice if you get sick, if you are someone like this, you get sick, suddenly everybody finds a way to get their own coffee. And they may even bring you coffee. I had a friend who had COVID. She tested positive for COVID, and we were all so worried about her. She's a dear member of the Sangha here. And so I called her. I said, how are you? She said, well, I feel fine physically. I don't seem to have any symptoms, though I had this positive test. And she wasn't worried about getting retested because she had to be quarantined for 2 weeks. And the family was bringing all kinds of food and asking, how are you feeling today? Oh, I'm okay. And she was getting to meditate and read books and watch satsangs online. And all her friends were asking. She didn't realize how much, love could come to her. That, because someone may say happy birthday to you specially or whatever, but this was a whole outpouring. And she loved it. So it was sort of like a vacation. So, again, we have to say, what results are being produced in me? That is what makes something right. Another way to look at it is it drawing me closer to God? Or is it keeping me further away? Is it taking me away from God? And if you feel, for example, this is taking me away from God, look, at least you're thinking of God. Even if you're thinking of going away from God, still you're thinking of God. What's worse is when we're not thinking. Just happily marching, off a cliff. Then we find, hey, what happened? I'm somehow at the bottom and my legs don't work anymore. And so that's when we have to kind of rethink things or think at all. So it's whenever we're thinking of God, and as I said, even if I'm realizing I'm going in the wrong direction, so what? Just make the course correction, like on the ship. If you make the wrong direction on a ship, you don't just say, that's it, too bad, I'm stuck. I guess we have to, end up going to Rameshwaram because I aimed in the wrong direction from where we wanted to go. No, you just fix it. And life is like that. It requires constant adjustment, constant fixing. So it'd never be surprised if that's what's needed. Even if it's something you thought you already overcame. I thought I was through this already. Well, and it may seem like we're going in a circle. That here I thought, great, I've overcome this, now here I am again. It's not a circle, it's a spiral. In other words, we're wending our way upward, but in a spiral, like a spiral staircase, you can end up in the same exact place that you started. But again, you're a sort of whole level above, or you're an octave higher, if you want to think of it in terms of music. Same note, but an octave higher. And so we revisit these things. Now, as I said, you can do the right action with the wrong attitude, and that's a good start. You can do the wrong action with the right attitude, and you can still get away with it. If you intentionally do the wrong action with the right attitude, well, you can't, because you can't intentionally do something wrong. That's not the right attitude. Meaning, if you mistakenly do something, even with the right attitude, you say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize I was trying to be helpful, but I see now that it wasn't helpful at all. It's fine. The other person may not think it's fine, but you can feel that, okay, the force of a karma, which is the whole problem, and that's really the question of what is a right action. A right action helps us to get out of karma. A right action helps us to get closer to God. And a wrong action just keeps us more in this mess. And what really helps makes an action right? As I said, our attitude, which is linked also to our desire, to our commitment. If we're doing something wrong and I really don't care and I'm going to do it, that generates more karma than if we, for example, turn our hand and accidentally bump into somebody and we didn't mean to hit them, but we did hit them, and we say, oh, I'm so sorry, and can I fix it or whatever, but that doesn't generate nearly the same kind of karma as if we had meant to. Are they coming? Okay, here, make it look like an accident. Oh, so sorry. So no, you have to, we can't fake it because God sees it all. So what we want to do then also is say, is this action helping me to understand if it's right? Is it helping me to feel more free inside? To feel happier, to feel lighter, to feel less sort of bogged down? And if it's not, then it is not the right action, which is usually the right attitude. It's not yet the right attitude. Because, as I said, in that other situation, we may be bitter about something and we may be justified. But still, how is it helping anything? It doesn't make the other people right. It doesn't make us wrong. But at a certain point, we just have to be practical. I am the project I have to work on, and maybe God has given me what seems to be an unfair exam. You get to say e, u, and you get to say ka, ika, ga, ika, and so on, and you have to do these trigonometric derivatives and, integrals from calculus with no help. And it's sort of like, huh? I didn't even understand the question. And this one is just going e. It just seems so unfair that they get nothing and I get everything. But we are tested according to our level of strength. And it doesn't mean the other person is not strong and we are so strong. It doesn't mean that. But we have to push our boundaries. So we will not get tested on things that are easy. Why? Because then it's not a test. Meaning you don't even notice when you're doing easy things. You don't feel like, oh, I'm being so tested with one more vada. No, you have no problem. But what happens when you open the fridge and there's no more batter? Hey, suddenly the test begins. So, the thing is, we have to we have to accept that God loves us. If you can feel that, and I'll end with this thought in terms of how to feel that. When you can feel that, you start to feel more of a trust. There is only one place we can trust, that we can place our trust safely, and that is in God, that is in the divine. But I mean that as a real experience, not just yes, it's all with God, He's in charge anyway. No, it's just that we are opening to feeling that. And how? Easiest way is meditation. Because in meditation, it's not so much a question of, okay, my attitude was I would say it was 50% right, but, I could have done better. But on the other hand, in this situation, that person's attitude, oh my God. No, it's not useful. And it would be stressful if, as I said, I gave you this image of the course correction, but it would be stressful for every moment to go, okay, no, little to the left now. Okay, the right foot goes, whoa, we can't live. It would be exhausting to minutely correct everything, to analyze, look at everything, because it's much simpler to meditate, to chant, to be with other truth seekers, and it raises the level of energy in the spine. Not just the amount or the flow of energy, but the actual level of energy, meaning which chakras is the energy in more. The higher the energy is in the spine, the broader our perspective, the more relaxed we are, the more intuitive, the further we can see, just like climbing higher on a mountain. You can see further into the distance. We raise our consciousness, and our attitude automatically adjusts. We find ourselves, the people who are being selfish around us, they can't help it. That's where their energy is. Maybe if we saw everything about their life and their past lives too, we would understand that, listen, they're actually doing quite well for the amount of struggle they've been through. And besides, it's really not our concern. Our concern is to give. But you can say, yeah, but if you meditate, then you'll say, yeah. You see, the more we raise that energy in the spine, and then everything becomes automatic. It's easy to have the right attitude. It's easy to do the right action, which otherwise is not so easy, because you can say, in this case, well, but in that case, and there's always these kinds of situations that can be analyzed and debated intellectually. But if you can feel that calmness in your heart, that connection to God, and say, this is what I feel is the right thing to do, I'm going to do it. And then if you find out it wasn't, and it did not turn out at all how you wanted, you say, well, I did what I thought was right. You'll still have peace. It's very different than saying, I knew it was wrong, but I did it anyway. Or I wasn't sure and I didn't get calm and centered first, which you always can. You can always take a break. If nothing else, you can say, I have to go to the washroom. Everyone will give you a few minutes. And so meditate, get centered, and also pray and say, God, I am not going to get this right on my own. You have to help me. I had a situation like that where I was thinking I was doing the right thing, but it turned out not to be the right thing. And all the signs were there, but I still was like, no, but I think it is still the right thing. And finally, I had enough wisdom to give up and say, okay, maybe not. Let's try the other thing. And that was the huge success. So sometimes God will rescue you even against your will, if you're trying to live in this way. But you're always listening and you're always watching. Because if you're heading in the right direction and every face around you is, then you have to wonder, normally right actions generate harmony. Now you can say, look, the faces around me look like that all the time, no matter what I do. Well, okay, we have to adjust. But even, for example, if people are opposing your spiritual practices at home, or why are you spending time in this and that, over time, most people will come around to that and say, I see that you're happier. I see that your BP has gone down. I see that you're more patient. I appreciate. And then you say, oh, yes, and then would you like to? Venda. Okay, so that's all right. That takes longer. So remember that. If we are having any kind of trouble, let's try to raise our consciousness in the spine. Let's raise the energy in the spine. And then also, through meditation, but also thinking of Master. Just, Master, help me. We are not doing this alone. Remember, Master said you should stand unshaken. You must stand unshaken amidst the crash of breaking worlds. It's quite an order. But he didn't say amidst this crash of breaking worlds you must stand alone. You stand with him. No problem. He says, I'm sorry, this world is crashing and breaking. I'll make you another world. I mean, the yogis can create whole galaxies, Master said. It's hard to believe. I mean, here we're trying to think about what to make for lunch, and the yogis are making galaxies. And so, just nothing to worry about. If you're with him, you're safe, and you are with him. Or whoever your guru is, or however you think of God, to feel that closeness. Even though we're strong, even though we're giving, we're not doing it alone, and we never should. Just Grab onto that hand. I mean, even you can do this if you find it helpful. Just imagine, feel his fingers intertwined with yours. You're holding on to him. He's guiding you. He's keeping you safe.